So let's talk about using the 3D camera tracker in After Effects to allow you to put signs, logos, anything you like on buildings and other footage, but in a proper 3D space, so it looks convincingly part of the scene. So, for example, here's some footage I shot a long while ago. And, for instance, we could put a graffiti face on the side if we wanted to. There you go. And as you can see, it sits perfectly within the entire movement. So there's that. But you can also take it quite a bit further. And you can use something like Element 3D to put an air conditioner, some pipes, even sparks coming out the bottom of the air conditioner, and a basketball hoop. Because let's face it, who doesn't like basketball? And as you see, it all sits there perfectly happily. And obviously the level of realism is entirely down to you. It's how much work you're prepared to put into it. So that's what we're going to look at today. And you'll be very glad to know that it's a lot easier than you probably realized. Here's my basic blank composition. So let's take this off. So I've put my footage, I've pre-composed it into a subcomp, and the reason for that, it's 4K footage. This is a 1080p timeline. If I put it to 50% here in scale, and then put it inside a subcomp, then what will happen is when I put the 3D tracker onto it, 3D camera tracker, it'll run as if it's 1080p, which just means it's quicker for the sake of this tutorial. So here you go. So we're analyzing the background. And it's normally pretty quick, as you'll see. You can see it jumping through the frames there. So that's that. So when it says solving camera, if it stays on solving camera, then it actually hasn't managed to compute all the 3D points to allow you to track it. And that could be a number of reasons. It could be that you don't have enough points or enough distinctive features in the actual video for After Effects to make those judgments. Or it could mean that your camera angles are kind of weird, like an ultra fisheye lens, for example, or moving around too much and it can't do it. So when you do projects like this, if you are planning to put elements, whether it's text, solids, or 3D objects in something like this, it's worth bearing in mind that the easier you can make it for the camera tracker, the whole workflow that you then do will be so much more streamlined. This has come out pretty good. And as you notice, as I move my mouse around, I'm getting all sorts of facets over the top. And so it's really a question of finding some of these that fit well. For example, this one looks good. It's flat on the side of the building. It looks pretty convincing. All I'm doing is moving my mouse over to get this. And now I'm going to click on that bullseye. And then I get the 3 dots, the triangulation, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go create solid and camera. Now, if we run this, you will see that that is perfectly in track with the side of the building. So now let's say you want that graffiti face on the side. The easiest way to go about that is to select this solid that you've just created and you want to pre-compose it. And there's a few reasons for doing that, but let's just show you first. It's under the layer menu and then pre-compose, or you can right click on your layer and then you can go pre-compose from there. And the important thing here is, unlike the 4K footage that I wanted to move into the new composition, this one I don't. I want to leave everything in the main thing here because this is where all the coordinates are that allow it to be positioned correctly. All I'm doing is changing the contents of that. So I don't want to mess with the coordinates. So if I leave all the attributes in this main composition, then when I open the subcomp, I can just drop an image in. I don't have to do any angling or scaling or anything really that I don't want to do. So here we go. I'm going to go OK. Now, if you want to make things neat, go to the end of your timeline, select the one you've got, and then all you have to do is press the Alt key and the right angle. I don't even know what it's called, to be honest. It's like the square bracket. So Alt and the right square bracket. It's just a nice shortcut. So we're now going to go into this composition, and there's the purple square that you saw on the side of the building. We're now going to delete that. We're going to go to our project, and we're going to find something that we like, which was basically that graffiti face, which is there. We drag it on and move down, and as you see, it's too big, but that's no problem. Obviously, press S for scale. And if you just click and hold and drag either left or right, you can see it's scaling it. If you want to do it with more accuracy, hold down the Control key, and you get much finer steps in the resize. which just makes it easier to work with. So there he is. That's the magnificent graffiti face. So if we now go back to Comp 2, you'll see that where the purple square was is now the face. And it's sitting perfectly there. And of course, because you now got it in a pre-composition, it's very, very easy for you just to get something else and stick it in. So we could have 2 of these. Let's just put him down there. There he is. And that one there. Go back here, and of course you've got 2, and it's just very simple. You can see the flexibility. Of course, the other thing you can do is all your keyframes work. So if we get this in the middle and we go scale and we put it down to 0, click the little stopwatch at about 7 or 8 seconds, make it bigger like that. Then of course this will animate while it's playing. So you've not lost any control. You've still got exactly the same stuff that you can do with everything else. So when you want to use elements instead of text or a solid or anything like that, only a couple of little differences that you need to observe. So once you've done your 3D camera tracker and you've got it here, select your plane exactly as before, then right click and then say create null and a camera. And then what you can do is you've got your element 3D underneath the track null. You can toggle them down. Let's move this up so we've got a bit more space. And you've got your position X, Y, and Z in 3D space. The null has got the coordinates of where you need this to be. So it's a question of just connecting them up. So grab this one, position X, Y, drag onto position, and then get your Z and drag it onto the Z at the end there. And as you can see, they're mimicking the coordinates of the building. They're now linked. So as we go past, now obviously the scale's a bit incorrect, but you can change all that. And here's your control panel for element. If you click on the scene setup, I basically have an air conditioning unit, some pipes, and a basketball hoop, because why not? And the reflection, I've been a bit lazy here. What I did was I selected the actual layer with the footage in, the 4K footage, and went back to element and selected it as a custom texture map in the element scene setup program. Go to environment, and I also repeated it because often you'll find that when you have footage as a reflection map, particularly 1080, you won't really have very obvious reflections because the graduations in the map are actually too small. This way makes it look a lot more shiny. So it's just getting a balance, and it's just here in the UB repeat. So if I put it to 5, then obviously I've got a lot more. And when you move it around, you can kind of see quite a nice reflection in both of them. And the only other thing I've done is I've put a plane, which you can't see. And the reason for that is I need some shade to appear on the wall so that the stuff, all this lot doesn't look like it's just floating in midair. I need it to sort of have shadow around all the little bits and pieces. It's actually dead simple. You get the plane, you go to your presets, and I think version 1 materials has got it, and you've got a thing called a matte shadow. And you just drop the matte shadow on the plane, and the plane will pretty much disappear. But what it means is that if we go over here a little bit and we look at the ambient occlusion, which is your basic sort of very crude shadowing, here it is, ambient occlusion. If I turn it off, right, you can see now it does not look part of the building, but we know that we put that shadow matte against the building. So when we turn it on, that gets activated, and lo and behold, it looks more like part of it. So you've got some very simple techniques here that can turn out some really nice results. Oh, the sparks, just in case you're curious. So I've got a load of bunches of clips that I've either found on the web that are free to use, or I've created myself by using a black cloth and then lighting it very carefully, or not lighting it as the case may be, so I can change the transfer mode and knock out the background. And we have here, I've got a composition called Falling Sparks, you look down the bottom, it's here. And this actually could be completely turned off. Doesn't need to be visible. And what it has is it has falling sparks. It's kind of, the title gives it away. And then it's got some little explosions that happen as well. So that's your basic layer. And you can make that as fancy as you like. You can put smoke on it, all sorts, whatever clips you've got knocking around. Then you go back to your composition here, this one. And all I did, which was ever so simple, is to, underneath the aircon unit, I have another plane, which is here. Again, which you can't see. But if I change the mode of it, you should be able to see it. So it's linked to custom layer 2. Yeah. So the diffuse layer is custom 2. And if you look down here, the blend mode is add. If I put it on normal, all of a sudden you can see it. There it is. But I'll put the blend mode to add. That'll get rid of the black background and make the sparks stand out. So if we just have another look. So you can see the reflection there. You can see some of the sparks coming out now. Poof. And then you've got the little explosions coming out the bottom. All that is just video on that square where the transfer mode has been changed. That's it. So it's actually dead easy. But of course, the plane is 3D as much as everything else. It holds together perfectly with the aircon. And as you can see, the reflections are working nicely. So you've got, as the camera tracks past it, you've got a change of light on it, which makes it look a little bit sort of more part of the building again. You enjoy it. I mean, there's so many different free models on the internet that you can try out. Or you can get them in Blender, get them for Blender, and then convert them to an OBJ, import them into Element, and off you go. And because Element's, I think, is it OpenGL? It's really, really fast. It renders incredibly quickly in real time, pretty much. So it's very nice to work with.